Hey, welcome everyone to the Centerville City Council meeting being held on December 5th, 2023. We welcome all that are here in person. We welcome all that may be joining Zoom as well. So let's make sure we can conduct business. Let's do a roll call, starting with Councilman Ince.
Ince, present.
Summerhays present.
Hurst, present.
Yeah, we have 3 of 5 present, 1 sick, and 1 is at a family swearing in, and she will be here shortly. But we do have a quorum to proceed, so we will proceed. Let's start with the legislative prayer thought by Councilwoman Hurst.
I had the opportunity to, we were raking leaves in our yard last week, and it kind of made me think about just the season and the time of year. We're right between this, Thanksgiving, when we're so grateful for the many blessings that we have, and in this community, I think we're particularly blessed. But I was noticing that, and then came to the park lighting just right after when it got dark, and I was a little bit late. I missed everyone, but so I just wanted to say that how appreciative I am of our Parks Department, the love and care that they give to our park. It's a bright spot when we kind of have things dying in our community, and so I appreciated that. I hope as we go into this Christmas season and other holidays that we celebrate, that we will all take an opportunity to remember that there are many who are not well off and need assistance and help. With health challenges earlier this year, I've had the opportunity to have been served by many in this community, for which I am incredibly grateful. We live in a really wonderful place, and I hope that we will remember those who are maybe less fortunate that could use those blessings during this season and throughout the year. And with that, I'll just give a word of prayer. Our dear Father in heaven, we are grateful for the many blessings that thou hast bestowed upon us. We're grateful for the opportunity to live in this community and to serve on the city council, and as elected officials, we appreciate that opportunity to serve in the community. Please bless us this evening as we make decisions for the residents here, that we will be able to do so with thy guidance and inspiration, that we will have and be enlightened to know the things that are best for our community. We say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilmember Hurst. We appreciate that. We are blessed to be in this community. If you'd all rise and repeat the pledge with me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is the open session part where anyone in attendance in the hall here or by Zoom can come to the podium and present what might be on their mind. We would ask you, if you're so inclined to do so, to keep your comments to a couple minutes. And if you are so inclined to do so, just state your name and where you're from. So that's now available to do that. Anybody online tonight?
We have a couple online, but
No comment?
no comment.
Okay. All right, seeing that nothing for in the open session tonight, we will proceed to the presentation part of our meeting. The first presentation is the audit report. As Nate's coming up to the podium here, we do have an audit committee within the city. I happen to be on that audit committee. We met last week for about an hour about this audit report and went over it, but it's here to present to you as well too. And Nate, you could probably talk a little bit more about the audit.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. As Mayor mentioned, we have completed our audit for the fiscal year 2023 and have issued our financial statements. Like Mayor mentioned, we have John Hatterley here, our auditor from Larson & Co., here to present to you. And before he does that, I'd just like to express my appreciation for the staff here at Centerville City, specifically the finance staff, but everyone else that helped prepare these financial statements, as well as Marcus Arbuckle with Keddington and Christensen. And of course, thanks to Larson and Co. I told John at our audit committee meeting, but this was by far the smoothest audit I've ever been a part of. And that's in big part to him and his team and their professionalism. They've been great to work with. So with that, John, the floor is yours.
While John's coming up, I told him to give you the really detailed version, so he's been working on that all weekend, right, John?
I have, and Brent said I had at least 45 minutes, so I'm good.
It's the fun, exciting stuff, so.
Thanks for
Go
being
fast.
here.
Thank you for letting me take a little bit of your time. I promise I won't be 45 minutes. I'm John Hatterley with Larson and Company. I'm the government audit partner there, so I oversee all the government audits that happen in our office. Just happy to be here. Happy to work with Centerville. You're like Nate was saying, you have a great staff, and I think you should pat them on the back every chance you get, because the audit was really smooth. We got all the information that we requested, and I know sometimes we can be a little invasive, kind of like going to the doctor when you don't really want to. But it's things that we need and we look at in order to give our opinions on the financial statements. So if we don't get that information, I get a little bit concerned if it's weeks and, months that it draws out and we're still not getting the information. But we got all the information that we needed, and like Nate said, it went really smooth. So what I'm going to go over tonight, I'm not going to go through all the financial statements. I'm just going to go over the opinions that we give and why we give those opinions, and then some communication that I'm required to go over with you. I'll be really brief on that, and then just maybe a couple of comments on the statements, just from comments that we've received from general public and other entities, other clients, of confusion, and maybe a little bit citizens get a little bit upset because they start reading financial statements, they don't really understand what they're reading, and so just a couple of pointers. So first off, if you're looking at it, we're going to start. I'll find the page number. Sorry. So it's going to be page 10. I don't know what page number of the PDF it is. It's the independent auditor's report. So in your file, it follows the introductory section. The audit report always follows the financial section of the annual comprehensive financial report. The first couple paragraphs just outlines that we've completed the audit as of June 30th. That's your fiscal year end. Our opinion of this report is specifically on the financial statements, and that's an unmodified or an unqualified opinion. That's a clean opinion in our world. I know that second opinion doesn't mention those words, but without getting our geek on, that's what the second paragraph means. It's very accountant-like language. The basis for our opinions, that's just the guidance that we're required to follow, not only standards that are set for auditing practices nationwide, but also government auditing standards. There are differences. Your responsibilities as far as the audit goes is the city is required, or you're responsible to make sure that the financial records are materially correct, that the transactions are being done correctly, any journal entries are being done correctly, that the financial statements are prepared correctly. And if you look at the second paragraph under that, this is kind of a new thing. You are required, if there's conditions or events that come up during the year that would prohibit you from continuing as a going concern, at least for the next 12 months, then you have to do internal analysis to identify the issue and then figure out, okay, how are you going to get past that, if you can get past that. And this came about really with the rise of COVID. So that's my new timeline, is AC after COVID. So during COVID, a lot of the governments and a lot of entities didn't survive. In the state of Utah, we were very lucky. A lot of the governments actually thrived. A lot of governments weren't hurt that bad. But people rely on your financial statements. So these financial statements are going to get submitted to the federal government. They're going to get submitted to your lending institutions and other people that are going to run ratios, and they're going to rely on this data because it's audited. The problem with COVID was nobody wanted to talk about how it was going to affect their business, or maybe they didn't know how it was going to affect their business, and so they didn't talk about it in the financial statements. And so everybody assumed that everything was business as usual, and then all of a sudden they go insolvent within that year and they relied on that information. Maybe they lend you money and now they're out that money. So that's the whole point of that, is just making sure that if there are things that come about, just make sure that you as a council are aware and you're communicating with Nate's staff, that if there's any financial issues that you can make it past it. Our responsibilities are outlined also now in the audit report. All of that's contained in the engagement letter, and I'll let you read through that. Just remember that there are certain sections of the financial statements that do not fall under our opinion, and that is the required supplementary information. So that's management's discussion and analysis that always immediately follows the audit report. And at the end of the notes, there's a section specifically called required supplementary information. So those are not considered part of the basic financial statements, but GASB requires that they always accompany the financial statements because it gives it more readability and understandability. So like the MD&A, that is the Reader's Digest version of what's contained in the financial statements, but that doesn't fall under our opinion. The supplementary information, if you choose to include supplementary information, it falls under our opinion, but we tie it back to the financial statements. So that section really doesn't always have to be with the financial statements, because all that is summarized inside the basic financial statements, as well as the single audit is considered supplementary information to your financial statements. So that is a completely separate audit that is done for the federal government, but we combine the two together. All right, now we're going to flip to the very far back. The next report that we're required to issue is just a report that outlines that we perform your audit in accordance with government auditing standards. The purpose of that letter is to outline that we look at internal controls, not to give an opinion, but we make sure that A, you have internal controls, and B, they're functioning. So Brant can implement all the controls he wants to, but if nobody's going to follow them, they don't do you any good. So we make sure that A, they're in place, and B, that they're being followed. What we're looking for is material misstatements or significant deficiencies inside the financial statements being caused by a lack of controls. There weren't any, so I'm not going to spend any more time on that. The next report, we also give an opinion on your compliance with Utah state requirements. So this report goes to the state auditor. This opinion is very specific to the areas that we're required to look at, and they're outlined in the report. I have to put the caveat that this is not a legal opinion, nor is it an opinion on your compliance with the entirety of Utah code. We do build things into our audit procedures that are outside of this, that deal with Utah state code, that I feel like are more important to financial reporting and whether or not your financial statements are correct. But our opinion on state compliance is an unmodified or unqualified opinion as well. All right, the next report we were required to issue this year is for the federal government with the single audit. And it very much follows now the format of the audit report, so I don't need to go through the whole thing. It has the basis for our opinions, what your responsibilities are. But our opinion on your compliance with federal grants is also an unmodified or an unqualified opinion. All right. Oops. All right, just a couple of things that I'm required to communicate to you as a board. We've completed the audit, and this is in the communication letter, and this is a separate letter that's issued outside of the financial statements, as this is directed to you as a council and management specifically, not for the general public. Not that the public can't read it, but it's really directed towards you. The plan scoping of the plan scope and timing of the audit, as well as our responsibilities, that's all outlined in the engagement letter. That's why we have you sign an engagement letter. Compliance with ethical requirements, we are required to maintain certain independence standards. That responsibility lies with me as a partner, that not only my team, but also our entire firm is independent of Centerville City. If we're not independent, we're precluded from doing your audit. But that kind of alleviates you guys from making sure that we're doing our job, because that responsibility lies with me. Significant risks, we're required to communicate to you as a council the significant risks that we identified in our audit. Significant risks just means that with our risk-based audits, every line item in your financial statements gets assigned a risk. So, for example, capital assets versus cash. Capital assets typically have a lower risk because it's very easy to determine historical cost, and it's very difficult to pick up this building and steal it. So capital assets typically have a lower risk versus cash. Cash is higher risk because it's easy to manipulate and it's easy to misappropriate. So if you don't have additional controls over cash, then things can happen. And so based on the risk level of each assigned area, then we have to do certain procedures to make sure that our comfort level is good over those. And then we have overarching risks, and this is really just the nature of the industry, whether it's a government, nonprofit, public. Cash disbursements, you are a public entity, people are concerned with how you're spending the money. You get federal grants that have certain restrictions on how you can spend that money, so that's a significant risk, as well as management's ability to override controls. And that's just an inherent limitation or a weakness in any internal control system. So you can have the best controls possible, but there's always that double-edged sword that says with that ability to override those controls, then you can misstate the financial statements. So with those significant risks, we have to plan and perform specific tests over those areas to make sure that there's not misstatements in the financial statements being caused by those risks. So that's all those mean. It's nothing that the city has done or that Nate's team has done to really warrant those specific risks. These risks are based on really just the nature of your entity and the complexity of your entity. There weren't any difficulties performed or encountered in performing our procedures, so don't need to talk about that. Management representations, we get a representation letter signed by, I believe the mayor, and Nate signed that, and that's just really an open and honest communication that we've been given all of the information that we need in order to give our opinion and to make sure that our opinion is correct. You can read through the rest of the communication, nothing that I need to discuss. And then the last page of that letter outlines the findings. There weren't any internal control findings, and like I said, there weren't any state compliance findings this year. So one more year of no findings, which is good. You don't ever want to have significant findings that you have to deal with and issue. All right, so now we're going to hop back to the financial statements, and if you want to, I don't know if anybody has this up. Nate, do you have the financial statements that you can put on the screen?
Jennifer's running
Oh.
for you right here, Tim.
Okay.
I just have this giant audit report. Is it separate from this?
Yep, that's the one.
This is what you need?
Yep.
Okay.
So if you'll go to like page 24, oh, go down to the bottom of the page, you can see what that is.
This is 30.
So go up to page 24. So I'm just gonna go over a couple of different statements and what those statements mean. So this statement is the very first statement in the financial statement section, is it? This is the statement of net position. So this is the balance sheet, or in private terms, for the city. And what this statement, the information that it gives you is a full accrual methodology of accounting. That means that it's based on the economic resources. So what this statement has is it has all of your capital assets and all of your long-term debt. So anything that's long-term is incorporated in this statement. Where the confusion lies is if you look at the total assets of the city are 57 million, you think, well, gosh, we've got all this money and we've got all these assets that we can, operate our city. But remember that this is the economic resources. So this is presented very similar to a private business. You have a lot of capital assets that are not readily convertible to cash. So therefore, you can't use that to operate the city in the upcoming year. All right, now if you hop down to page 27, sorry. So this is the second set of statements that follows, and this is the actual fund statement. So this is what you should be seeing from Nate on a monthly basis is your fund financial statements. These are reported on the current resource method rather than the economic resource. And what this is it does not have any long-term assets and it doesn't have any long-term liabilities. The only thing that's contained in this statement is the resources that you have available to you to operate this city in the next coming year. So kind of like revenue comes in, then it's or if money comes in, it's revenue, if money goes out, it's an expense. This is how the city operates, so as you're planning the city, you need to operate off the fund statements. And just for the general public, these statements are what you as a council and what Nate's team really makes decisions off of, not what capital assets. Nate said before the meeting, people look at our assets and think, oh, we have $57 million in assets. Well, a lot of that is dirt under the road. It's not an asset that you can use to fund the police department or whatever. So just know that there's a difference between the government-wide statements, which are full accrual, and then your fund statements, which report really how your fund operates. Any questions?
So one thing that, John, that I didn't bring up to you at our audit committee meeting and the questions I asked, I have a question about that report that goes to the state auditor. If the state auditor was to come back and from that report have questions, do they go through you? Do they contact us? I mean,
Probably both.
Where does this, and how many of these does the state auditor, does he have randomly choose?
I think they look at every
cities that
one.
They might test and look at?
No, they'll look at every one. So there's certain things that they'll look at. So once your financial statement, they have staff that will go through the financial statements and they'll look at then the communication and the findings. And if they see something that was missed or they think was a finding, typically they'll call me and send you a letter and say, hey, we're looking at this and we questioning this. And then typically they'll call me and then I'll open up my audit and say, well, this is all of the evidence that supports what we did. And I can send them all that information. So typically they'll go through me first.
How many staff does Auditor Dougal have up there?
I don't even know anymore. I know that they only have 2 in the government office, but I think that they have a full staff of people who review. And then they have other staff that actually go out and do audits.
Yeah. The other thing I would stress to all of us, that this report, even though it's quite lengthy, there's actually some fabulous information in it, just financial and non-financial, as you read it, and some supplementary schedules that are quite helpful in helping us to understand the happenings in the city. I would encourage you to do. You may not be able to read every line item, but there's some great schedules in there that you can learn a lot about what we're doing. So, other questions for John? Do we want a motion to approve the audit, or what do we need to do, or is it just presentation only?
Yes.
Accept.
Accept.
The audit as presented.
I'll make a motion that we accept the fiscal year 2023 audit report and AACFR as presented.
Second.
Motion to second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. John, thanks for your work and your staff's work, and thanks for coming up here tonight. I'm glad that we had good weather for you.
Yeah.
Ask one question. How often do you hear from the state auditor asking questions?
Not very often. They don't
About
like me.
us specifically or any others?
I have
Hopefully none about us and
I have a love-hate relationship with the state auditor, so if they don't have to call me, they won't call me. I've been called to the principal's office very many times, and it doesn't end up well for them. So,
It's gonna happen when Larson and Co. Is it not Larson and Company, it's Larson and Co.? That's,
yeah, Larson and Company. Yeah.
referred to it as. When you do as many governmental audits as you do.
Yeah, I mean, we probably, in the state of Utah, we probably do 70, so I talk to him on a regular basis. In fact, he just emailed me, Seth emailed me the other day for information on another audit where the public's complaining and they want documentation, and it's fine, and I don't have a problem. I mean, I understand our business and I understand our world, so if there's ever questions or if they ever contact you as a city, like, I should be the first person to reach out to, or Marcus, but I'm happy to talk to the state auditor on your behalf. I'd love to go to bat for you, so. Not very often, probably once, maybe 3 or 4 times a year.
Just curious.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, if there are questions,
Appreciate it.
I feel free to call, love to talk, so, thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move on to the business items. First item we have is a public hearing on the Parish Creek PUD final subdivision plat. Corey, you want to come up here and talk about this PUD for us?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This project's the Parish Creek Park. Sits over in the northwest corner, the black and white buildings that you see between the two freeways. That's where they're located at. That was originally 4 lots. Recently, well, it's been a little bit. The Planning Commission reviewed an amended site plan where they're going to take 3 of the lots and combine them together, and they're going to share some parking and some storage areas. So there'll be an existing building on the west and a new building to the north of the project will now be 1 large lot. So there'll be 2 lots in the project. It's conditioned upon having a plat amendment. In this case, it's a re-subdivision of those lots because rather than just deal with plat lines, they are actually creating a, lack of better terms, a condominium style where the buildings will be padded as for real property for sale. The parking lot and the landscaping and the storage areas will be held in common between the 2 buildings. And so it allows the opportunity for an owner of one building and an owner of another building to be different entities. And so that's what they'd like to do with the property. So they have to go back through the planned unit development process to do that. So Planning Commission's also reviewed that plat and is recommending approval to you. Just a note that I think probably is good to add as a condition of approval. In the original plat in the drainage channel, there was a 20-foot easement dedicated to the county for managing that drainage area. In the last couple of weeks, the county is wanting some adjustments to it. I think it's going to go to 25 feet is the width and make it ability for their equipment to get in on the preferred side of the drainage channel. I know that there's been the latest communication between Adam Wright at Davis County, the applicant, and Kevin. So I would just, from my perspective, add a condition, if you're going to approve this, that the city engineer verify the parameters of that new easement and that it's been deemed officially acceptable by the Davis County Public Works Director. And that way, we satisfy what the county's trying to manage there. But other than that, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the PUD plat to you.
So going 1 lot, Corey, and going to a condominium structure, will there be reciprocal access agreements for parking and vehicular access?
It's on the plat, so it'll be held in common. So the common vehicle access, the parking lot will all be held in.
So they don't need that easement because they're all part of the association?
Yeah.
It's part of the association document, I guess, then?
Correct.
Okay.
Other questions for Corey right now?
Do we approve a condominium plat? Because I have to file a condominium plat, correct?
It's called a PUD plat under our ordinances. Condominium is a mode transfer of property. So it would be like a condominium, but it's not falling under it's not falling under the condominium map, but they'll have their owners association.
So there won't be a condominium map?
There'll be a plat, and it's just a PUD plat, planned unit development plat. So it's very similar to condominium. The addition of a condominium is you can do airspace inside a building,
Correct.
so,
I guess this one's because it's horizontal, it's not
Right.
a concern.
correct.
Okay. This is a public hearing matter. I do not, there's not anybody speaking for the applicant here, is there?
I'm here, but only if there's questions.
Okay, you come up and just tell us who you are so we can know and where you're from?
Sure, Chad Randall, Tom Stewart Construction.
Thanks.
Again, here just if there's questions.
All right, thanks. Appreciate you being here, Chad. Okay, like I said, this is a public hearing matter, so I will look for a motion to go to a public hearing.
Make a motion. Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing is now open. This is a public hearing to come up to the front to discuss only the Parish Creek PUD final subdivision plat. If you're so inclined, just state your name and where you're from. So that is open.
motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
We got a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, public hearing is now closed, so now we go to, if there are further questions for staff or the applicant, we have them both here from council members. Seeing no further questions, then I will entertain a motion on, on this matter.
I'll make a motion to approve the final subdivision plat for Parish Creek PUD subdivision, 1160 North, 950 West.
I'll add a
Yes. we
friendly
need-
amendment,
Yes.
Gina,
Yes, for sure.
that we add a condition verifying the drainage easement to the county, subject to the Davis County Public Works Director review and approval.
Okay. Do we need to have our city engineer look that over as well?
Okay, I didn't hear that from Corey. Corey, is that correct? City engineer as well as Davis County Public Works Director? Both? Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So both.
Yeah, I'll accept that amendment.
Okay, second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion on this? If not, let's start with a roll call vote, starting down with Councilman Ince.
Aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously for those that are present, and like I said, we do have a quorum present, so. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I can interject real quick, this may be Corey's last city council meeting if we don't hold a second one, so I just wanted to publicly get a last chance to recognize Corey and all of his hard work. I appreciate the chance I've had to get to know him all these years, and he will truly be missed. There's more I could say, but I'm sure he doesn't want me to say anymore, so. Appreciate you, Corey.
He quickly sat down.
So Corey, it's so many years, I'd like you to come up and
He got preempted by the mayor.
and quote our complete general plan and all our resolutions and ordinances. I'm sure you could do it, man.
The general plan states that the city is a wonderful place to live. And the ordinance says that if you abide by the rules, it will remain a wonderful place to live.
Thanks, Corey. That's very good. I like it. Thank you. Yeah, I always know when there's a public hearing matter where to look, and if I don't see Corey out there, one of his staff, I'm panicking. So it's a comforting feeling for sure. So thank you. All right, let's go to item number 2 on our business item. This is the Justice Court recertification that I think our city attorney, Lisa's been working hard on. Lisa, do you want to talk about it?
Well, thank you. Actually, I think the credit goes to our Justice Court. We have our Justice Court Judge, David Miller, as well as our Justice Court Supervisor, Tammy Niss. They run an excellent justice court for the city, and state law requires that our justice court be recertified every 4 years. So it gives us an opportunity to look through our justice court and make sure that they're meeting all the rules and standards that the administrative office of the court imposes upon justice courts. So with that, Judge Miller did agree to speak to this matter as well, so I'll just turn the time over to him if you'd like to.
Good evening.
Welcome. Great to see you.
Glad to see you as well. And Tammy and Lisa are really the ones that do the administrative part of this work, and I'm the man behind the road. So we're grateful that the city continues to support and encourage people to have the opportunity to interact with the third branch of government on the local basis. And we would urge you to approve the recertification process and push us forward another 4 years. Open to any questions you have.
So I've got a question. Maybe, I don't know if you can answer it, Judge Miller, or maybe Brent. As part of the letter, like, the final paragraph talks about the court security plan and any courtroom design criteria that may or may not need to be changed. do we need to make any changes physically?
Only if we change class, which we are not changing.
Number one,
I would just
thank
think
you
you-
for reading my entire letter.
Yes.
Oh, that is wonderful. I am required to provide an opinion letter that outlines all of the requirements, and so I'm really happy you made it to the end. But yes, we meet all of the standards. That was just my recommendation that, you know, given the change in security matters and things, I just was saying that's a good time to remind us that let's make sure that things are still safe, and if there's anything we want to add to our security plan, that perhaps the Justice Court and the Police Department can work together and update that. But we meet all the qualifications. In addition, there are design guidelines, but if you read those guidelines, they're not shalls, but, you know, shoulds. And so that's why I'm just saying, let's review those again. But yes, the way we have this set up meets all of the qualifications.
I was just concerned that as we go into budget season, January, February, we're thinking about any capital needs or requirements to satisfy that courtroom plan.
Yeah, there are some things we did talk about, you know, redoing the lobby and maybe providing some more areas for our prosecutors to meet with their clients. We're also required to have room for, you know, the witnesses or for the jury deliberations, but through COVID and things, we have changed, and we're doing quite a bit online and other things, but, you know, those are things to think about. It's not currently in the budget to make any of those changes, but those are just what I recall off the top of my head, and if
Judge Miller, from a physical standpoint?
I'm not aware of anything that
Okay,
really
good.
is needing anything this fiscal year that I can think of at all.
Okay.
Historically, when we've had more busy in-person court, we've occasionally used that room and the one behind that, and for prosecutors to meet with individuals. And for a jury, the area where the food is set out tonight is often where the jury would be for their deliberations.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we make do with whatever.
I'm glad I made Lisa's night, that I
Yeah.
read to the end of her last page.
thank you.
Further questions for any of the three?
No, I'm happy to make a motion if that's okay, Mayor.
You betcha.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 2023-28, requesting recertification of the Centerville City Justice Court.
Second.
A motion, a second, further discussion? If not, let's take a roll call vote. We'll start to my left, going to the right with Councilman Summerhays.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
That motion passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks for coming out tonight.
Thanks.
For being there. Thank you, Lisa, for all your work on it as well, too. All right. Let's go to item number 3, which is the appointment of the city treasurer and the oath of office. So we're happy to say that we have a new city treasurer, and we need to swear him in tonight. Ron, thanks for being with us. And so you're doing that, right? Mm-hmm. That's swearing in? Okay.
I'll just have you raise your right arm and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm
I do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will discharge the duties
and that I will discharge the duties
of my office with fidelity.
of my office
With fidelity.
with fidelity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Ron comes to us with a background in the financial industry. He was with a couple CPA firms, if I remember, and he's worked with our former treasurer, Luann, for a week or so in the office, and been getting some training. So we look forward to working with you. So,
As a matter of procedure, were we supposed to have, yeah, okay, obviously a heavy nod from our city attorney.
yeah,
We're supposed to approve resolution appointing him to that position prior to,
But he's ready.
that he is ready.
Point out.
so there is a resolution in front of us, 2023-07. Yes,
Is it 07 or dash
27.
27?
I'll go ahead and make a recommendation that
27.
that we approve resolution number 2023-27, appointing Ronald Chan. Is that the right pronunciation on your full name? You go by Ron, correct?
Yes.
Okay, as the city treasurer for Centerville City. And ratify the previous oath of office which has already been taken place.
Second.
all right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great. We got it all covered? Nate?
Sorry, Mayor, I'm going to interrupt here. No, we're very excited to have Ron. He's done a great job this past week that he's been with us. We've thrown a lot of information at him, and he's absorbed it really well. But I noticed our former treasurer standing in the doorway, so since we didn't let Corey get out of here without some embarrassment, I couldn't let her get out of here.
Good job.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to take a moment to thank Luann for all that she's done. She was with the city for 11 years, started in the police department before she moved up to the better department, the finance office. Did a great job as our treasurer for the past 2.5 years. So I just wanted to express both my excitement for Ron and my gratitude for Luann and all that she's done for the city. Thanks.
Do you want to quote, Luann, do you want to say anything?
I have full confidence in Ron, and, we work together. Yeah, there's a lot that we threw out. So, he's gonna do a great job for us.
Thanks again, appreciate it. Okay. Let's go to the Flock software service agreement. Either Paul or Alan, it looks like Alan's coming up to talk to us about it. Lieutenant Ackerson, welcome.
Thank you. All right, seems like I'm always talking Flock, preaching the good word of Flock. Okay, so we started our contract, our program with Flock, January of this year. When we signed an agreement, like on the 5th, they installed the first few cameras early in January, like January 22nd, and then they added some more, and then more and more, and finally got them all installed in May. And so since then, we've been utilizing Flock. We've had great success, many success stories. Just about every case we investigate, there's an element of Flock to it, whether it just be a search through the database or whether we actually find something and tie it. But we've had great success. I myself, I found myself working a patrol shift, like on a Friday or Saturday night, and had a kid evade from me in his car from the Megaplex. So we figured out who he was, and then I started tracking him on Flock, and we ended up finding him in the drive-through at McDonald's after having him track him through the Flock cameras in the morning, and pulled him out of his car, and he was a little bit surprised. But anyway, that's just my own personal experience with Flock, and I have done very little patrol work in the last year. But we found great success in it, and we want to continue to use Flock on a long-term basis. And as it had been set up, we were on a year-to-year contract with Flock. They've, as a business, they've seen a lot of success, and they've held their prices consistent for several years while they grow. But they've announced an increase in their pricing. But they did give us an opportunity to lock into a longer-term contract and maintain our current pricing without doing the upgrade, the increase in price. And so we've been working on a contract with Flock that would lock us into our current rate, which would, with our 11 cameras, would save about $5,500 a year, saved from that increase. So we would stay at $30,000 a year for our 11 cameras. We are still kind of in negotiation with Flock on particular language. I don't think it's going to be an issue. They seem pretty receptive so far to Lisa's proposed additions to the contract. One of which would be an escape clause. So if there were to be a change in state law or statute that made Flock kind of irrelevant or unusable for us, then we would be able to get out of the contract. So there's a timing issue as well, where we signed a contract like last January. It officially went into effect in April, towards the end of April. So we're now stopping the current contract, and we would like to start a new contract. It has to be signed by the end of the year for us to keep the current rates. So we're looking at maybe the 15th of December to start the new contract. So Flock would prorate us back the amount of their existing contract, but it would require us to obviously come up with funding now to start a new contract that would go from December to December. So there is that.
What is the remaining amount on the contract?
It'll be about $10,000.
$10,000, so worst case scenario, if we needing some funding, that would be a budget amendment before you, but there's more than likely a possibility to shuffle those line items around to absorb that 10,000. But just kind of put you on notice that it might require a budget amendment. But yeah, it's somewhat of a wash. We're just changing the cycle. So, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, there'll be no additional money, just having to pay earlier than we would typically have done.
And I think to honor Councilmember McEwen, who's not here, I think he would say something about privacy and so forth. But have you had any feedback from any federal or state agencies as it relates to privacy, or outside third-party civil liberty groups concerned about Flock?
Not that I'm aware of, and nothing that I've handled personally. I do know
And the
that-
provision you talked about that I think Lisa wants in there,
That was Alan's idea.
oh, good job, Alan, is to protect us in that event if there is some
Change in law.
legislation change,
Yeah,
yeah.
because currently the force majeure provision says that a change in law is a force majeure, therefore, you're still stuck with the contract. So I think it was a great addition that Alan has suggested.
Yeah, I do believe that the flow of legislation is going in favor of license plate reading systems and not against at this current point. The most recent legislation where the state kind of forced UDOT to start considering permits for license plate readers. In the past, UDOT's been very hesitant and slow in basically not issuing permits. License plate readers posted it on their right-of-ways, and the legislators came out and said, you have to start issuing permits for them. So that may change our location. There are a couple cameras we're considering moving to better locations where they might produce better data.
And
So
that's a
now
good
we're looking at UDOT right-of-ways.
And that's a good segue to my next question. Do you feel comfortable with the number of cameras and the locations of our cameras?
That's a constant discussion because there are holes, and there always are. There's just not enough cameras to be able to go around, and so.
And how much does each additional camera cost if we choose to add that to our system?
The current rate is $2,500, and I'm not positive. I think we may have missed the window, but they're going $3,000 a year per camera.
Does the annual service, the 30,000 per year, does that go up if you add additional cameras?
It would, yes.
So
right
you'd have
now
to
we-
buy the camera plus the additional service associated with that camera?
No, Flock maintains ownership of the cameras.
Okay.
So we pay for a service, the $2,500 a year per camera. And Flock maintains the cameras. In fact, they've gone through at least once on each camera in this last year and replaced the cameras and upgraded them with newer units.
Okay.
Alan,
So-
oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say, so you're essentially paying $2,500 per year per camera? Is that what, I mean,
Yes.
you're saying it's a service, so the 30,000 includes 10 or 11-ish cameras?
Yeah, it includes 11 cameras and then another $2,500 a year for an advanced search feature
Okay,
that allows us to dive in a little deeper, where with the advanced search feature, you can say, okay, we have this event at this date and time, we have this event, date and time. Tell me every vehicle that's common between the two events, right? Kind of a very useful investigative.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that saves a lot of time.
for sure.
So, Lieutenant, I'm wondering, are there other agreements that we have that are long-term agreements? I'm thinking like with our dispatch, how many years do we usually go into something like that on?
I'm not sure how long our contracts are with them for.
I think our dispatch is an interlocal agreement
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're not running.
with a maximum 50.
I'm just curious if there's any other agreements that the police service has that are longer term like this? Would this be our longest term agreement to? what
Yeah,
you-
it's the longest I
Have
can
an
think
agreement with Flex, right?
of. No, they're still year to year.
Yeah, so that's what I mean, agreement, it's a year to year. I'm not saying it's a,
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely, yeah, this is the only long-term contract that that I can think of. And we don't typically have to do this kind of a contract, but,
What about the information system agreement?
oh, you're talking like the CGIS data, through the state of Utah. So that's not a service we pay for, and so we do have agreements in there for usage, but it deals mostly with agreements to follow follow the rules and testing agreements. And
I
we
wasn't
do that.
thinking CGIS, I was thinking the other people up in Logan.
You just
The
got me.
storage system,
Go ahead,
the storage system.
yeah.
So just looking at the,
Oh, the store, okay, so we're talking, Motorola, right, in our WatchGuard maybe? That
Sorry, I
data?
can't remember the names.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, with WatchGuard on our Motorola dash and body cameras. And that contract is also year to year.
Okay.
I think the only other one that we have, and it might even be an MOU, is with the animal control, for animal control services, at around 41,000 a year.
But they're on their own taxing
That-
entity now,
it's
right?
no
Yeah,
longer-
exactly, there's kind of separate now.
Is
Yeah,
that
so
police
that's kinda
department or is
separating
that
off.
city at large?
Bountiful City, again, that's a year-to-year MOU, 45,000 a year. It's a very necessary service, it's our dispatch service.
Yeah.
And then, our records management system, stuff like that.
The only reason I asked Chief and Lieutenant is I like that you're working with Lisa on this and making sure that, hey, if things change, that we can get out of this. I want you to be able to have at your disposal the latest and greatest techniques to be able to take care of it. We're not locked into things that, that get outdated. So it just got me thinking about
Yeah,
other contracts you might be in.
we have a year-to-year contract, MOU more or less with the Metro Narcotics Task Force. We contribute to them, 14,600. So we have some, we got quick Lot car wash. A lot of these are just year-to-year stuff.
Yeah.
Well, luckily, this agreement does already have a non-appropriations clause, which governmental entities usually require, so that if we don't actually appropriate funds for the purpose, then we can terminate the contract.
The other thing I wanted to mention too with the Flock safety camera system is we're not tapping into just our 11 cameras here. We're tapping into literally thousands upon thousands of cameras.
So that was my next question. Are all of our neighboring cities, West Bountiful, Bountiful, and Farmington, using Flock?
North Salt Lake, Davis County is getting some, Farmington's looking at it. Ogden has a whole bunch, Weaver County's got a bunch.
I was just hoping that they would, because that would make that mesh.
Oh, yeah.
Just
More cameras there are, the more effective it becomes.
exactly. It's particularly for our neighboring cities. So
Yeah, we're definitely, we've been pushing them, like I said, preaching the good word of Flock out there.
Good,
Trying to get
okay.
more people on board. They did have a provision where other agencies could access data with an MOU, which is how we started, right? We started not
Correct,
without
yeah.
our own cameras, but accessing other cameras, and we started solving cases, and we've got our own cameras, but Flock is actually starting to dial back on that. They're starting to prove to be an actual business that wants to make money.
right.
And
exactly.
so they're.
So if Bountiful wants to get our data, they're going to have to participate.
They're starting that now.
What does Bountiful? Does Bountiful use any plate identification system?
They do not.
I'm surprised. Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. You said maybe there's a couple of holes in the system. I guess while we're talking about this, it's been almost a year since this started. How many holes do we have? Like, how many cameras would be ideal? I mean, not like 100.
Without breaching security and going into closed session, I think that's what council
Are
member.
we, I mean, is that something we need to discuss in closed session?
That was kind
No,
of
I
what I
think
was
he can give
getting
you
at
a
earlier.
number, he just won't tell you the location.
I don't want to know the locations. I
No,
don't
no, I
need to
think
know
he can
that.
give you a number.
Yeah, I
That's
just,
kinda what I
I
was
mean, are we
getting
a
at
couple
earlier, too,
short?
is
Are we 5 short?
I think if we move one and we get 5 additional, then things would be there'd be a lot better coverage.
But that's 25 grand.
Right.
Oh, sorry,
Well, no,
5 would be.
12.50, right?
Yeah, about 12.5.
Yeah, and so I feel comfortable with the number we have. There's 2 cameras we're considering moving, and so there will be potentially a charge of about $350 to move the camera to a better location, which I think is a great deal, because if you have a camera you're paying $2,500 a year for, but it's not producing,
Yeah.
Correct,
right?
yes,
And if it's not
exactly.
getting good hits, it's just not a good placement, then you pay a little bit to move it somewhere where it starts generating better data for you. And, yeah, we have one we're gonna move that's gonna plug, I think, a big hole we have.
For my part, I can't speak for the rest of the council, but I feel, please check in with us. Don't hesitate if you feel like you need that additional. I want any would-be thieves, vandals, et cetera, to know that Centerville is not an easy target.
And we're definitely proving not, to be, we're a hard target, that's for sure. Catch a lot of people. So, yeah, but we'd ask that you allow us to sign this 5-year contract. It is kind of a longer-term contract, but one we feel strongly in and believe we can have. The Flock will be a good partner for the next 5 years.
Well, and over that 5-year period, it'll save us about how much?
$27,500.
It's almost like you're getting almost a
Well,
year.
you're getting a year for
free.
Yeah.
Well, they're saving us from their increases.
Sure, no, that's what I.
Correct, yes.
And it could be more than that, because in 2 or 3 years, there may be
They might
even
go
a
up
bigger
even more.
increase, so
Right, 5 years, we
I
might
think
be
it's
having a
a
very different discussion.
no-brainer
there.
to do that.
Pricing.
Brent, what did we have, or Alan, what did we have in our budget last year for Flock? Did we have the 27.5 in there previously?
So it's actually the money that was in this current budget year. It was 30.
Correct, sorry.
Yeah, it was 33.5, and it was, there's additional startup costs, because we had to pay for all
Yes.
the installations. And so
Okay.
there's the 3,000, then plus the 33.5.
So it'll actually be a budget reduction, depending on how this 10 grand works out, from fiscal year to fiscal year.
Yeah, it'll be constant, yeah, I guess there's the savings of
What I'm saying is it was
3,500, but
33-ish for this year fiscal year and 25 for next fiscal year.
we're paying for a year and a half in our current fiscal year is what we're doing, year and a half's worth of coverage.
So next December, we're gonna have to pay for it again, so it'll be in our next year's
Correct.
budget.
Right.
Well, it'll be next January. so
It'll be
it's a January to
30,000.
January
Yeah, okay.
renewal. So we're paying for a year and a half in 1 year, but we're getting 6 months in the bank.
Right, yep.
We would have had to pay for it in April, right? So shouldn't it have been budgeted into this fiscal year? Now that I'm thinking.
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at.
Good catch right there, though. No, that is some internal discussion going on right there, because it wasn't real, the start date wasn't set. And so the cameras, we initially planned for a pilot program that was gonna start in April. And so we signed in January, they immediately installed a few cameras, and they waited, and they installed the bulk of them in April, then another one in May, and they never sent us an invoice, and we never got notification that it was actually getting started. And we figured, okay, they got all the cameras cameras were finished installing the 11th camera in May, right? And then they invoiced us 30 days later. So that put us into June, and then they hadn't invoiced us, and so they actually didn't invoice us until October of this year.
So that was our issue, is that we didn't budget it last year, so we were intentionally trying to get it into this fiscal year.
Correct, it's in this fiscal year.
But,
Yeah.
so we paid for it in July in this current fiscal year, even though they were installed in April, but, so we back paid, so to say. So now we're just,
You had a little bit of crossover from the previous fiscal year, is what you're saying.
right,
Did.
Okay.
Thanks, Lieutenant, appreciate it. So, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a recommendation that we approve Flock Software Services Agreement for the 5-year renewal term, subject to the additional changes that are acceptable to the city attorney.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. Let's do a roll call vote. Councilwoman Hurst, yeah, we're going this way. to the
Aye.
left.
Aye.
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 Motion's unanimous. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, let's go to item number 5 on the business. Oh, Council Member Hurst gets to tell us about why we received these letters in the mail.
Oh, boy.
So take it away.
Yes, the South Davis Sewer District, they run on a calendar year, so they are right now doing their truth and taxation. The hearing will be held this Thursday, December 7th at 6 p.m. at their offices. I'm not sure what the address is. Let's see. Does it say? 1800, oh, scoot back up, Jennifer.
Oh, sorry.
So that's okay. 1800 West, 1200 North, in West Bountiful. The increase is $48.01 per year, or $4 per month on an average home valued at approximately $556,000. So that will vary based on the value of the home. It is now required by law that a trustee representing an entity, a legislative entity such as this, brings that to the city council and makes everyone aware of that truth and taxation hearing. So that's why this is on our agenda tonight. I think it's a new law this year, Lisa?
past last legislative
Yeah.
session.
So what you're basically saying is any taxing entity before their public hearing needs to be coming forth through a city council meeting.
Yes.
So that means for any of us serving on a board, me
Yep.
serving on the fire board.
Yes.
Well, when this came out, I forwarded the email to our legal counsel at the rec center to say, are we meeting statute? So
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why, the reason for the timing is
They
because
decided to
they
ignore it?
run on a calendar
this was
year,
after the
and they're doing their truth and taxation now. And
Well, but
yes,
you're-
as
you're
a
proposing,
trustee that represents Centerville City, I was to forward that to the city, and it's supposed to be on an agenda.
So
for
it's
city
a
council.
reasonable attempt. So I think it's not like this it can't go forward with the special service district if it doesn't come to the government entity. But
Yeah.
as a trustee, you kind of have a responsibility to do your best to notify.
Yes.
Because our residents are being impacted, and they should be fully aware of all the taxing entities within their city, of what's
Right, so
impacting.
my council report on the tax increase would, I
Would
guess
suffice.
technically, would satisfy that
Yes.
requirement.
It's
So-
actually supposed to be a line item, though, on
Separate.
the agenda.
Separate line item.
So like, we did talk about this before, if you recall, we had Matt Myers come.
Right, he came and
I
presented.
talked about it in my stuff, but this is actually supposed to be a line item on our agenda, so
That's what
that's why it's coming up again, even though you feel like we've just probably heard about this, because I was trying to make you all aware before.
No, I
the
think,
letters
I
came
remember,
out.
I remember having heard. I was more giving Spencer a hard time about Bountiful,
Don't give me a hard time. Gee.
So-
sympathetically.
It's already, yeah, thank you. It's already
So
hard
anyway,
enough there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions, but we had discussed it. If anyone has anything, I'm happy to try and answer it. I do have a slide deck that the district provided a couple of days ago that will be presented in that public hearing on Thursday. So they obviously can address the details a lot better than I can, but I'm happy to give it a go if anyone has a question.
Where do they,
There were about 200 people that showed up for the rec center's truth and taxation hearing increase, so
Okay.
I don't know.
I
how
do
many
not
people
know where
come to
we
the
will
sewer
put
district.
200 people at the sewer.
I was just
Not that
curious.
big space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. They had made some suggestions, I don't think any
That
of
was
them were smelled well.
140% increase as opposed to this one.
Yeah. Yeah, so,
And they also sent out a good letter.
they did.
The rec center did not.
Yeah, they did send out a good letter, and I think the long and short of it is, as frustrating as this is, maybe just for the public, I know you guys are kind of aware from our last meeting, but these are state requirements that are changing the effluent requirements for the sewer, and the north plant just does not meet those effluent requirements. So they've got to do these upgrades. If you compare to what, it's over $3 billion in the state of upgrades to sewer plants. So it is hitting everyone, not that that makes it feel any better, but we do have a well-run system, and the rate increase is significantly lower than some of the communities. So we have a $75 million upgrade to the north plant. Several of the communities are hundreds of millions. So they were able to do it in, a relatively good economic fashion. So I am grateful for that, but yeah.
Thank you. Anything more on it?
No.
Any other questions for her? Okay, thanks for making us aware of that. All right, let's move on to our summary action calendar. Kevin Campbell, I'm going to have you come up. Well, I'm having Kevin come up because we only have one item on our summary action calendar. We actually have 3 or 4 usually. And I haven't heard from him in a while, so we want to hear his great voice. But, no, but in all seriousness, quick summary. So when people from the community looking at this now or looking at it later, what it means when we do a bond reduction, because we have these from time to time,
Yeah, good question. So basically, anytime a development comes in that has city infrastructure, usually, sometimes there's on-site required infrastructure that we make them bond for, but usually it's city infrastructure that they're bonding for. And so they post an estimated amount of what that improvement would cost, plus a little bit of contingency that we hold half of the contingency during the warranty period. And then as the work gets completed, they're allowed to request bond reductions monthly for items that are completed. So if a sewer line gets installed, then we can release the bond on the sewer, irrigation, storm drain, streets. And then once the development gets completed, with the exception of usually the slurry seal, we allow that to be done within the warranty period. But when all the infrastructure is completed, we go out and take a look at it. We have a walkthrough with most of Public Works department heads, myself, my assistant, and we go out with the developer and take a look, put together a punch list. Once the punch list is completed, then we recommend a start of warranty, which usually also includes a bond reduction at that time. And the warranty period is, we used to have a 2-year warranty, but Years ago, that state law changed to where we could only require a one-year warranty. And we withhold a percentage of the bond through that warranty, plus the amount of the slurry seal for 1 year. The slurry seal, a lot of times we'll let them piggyback on the city's contract if they'd like to. We have them pay for that up front. But that's kind of a generic example of how bond reductions might happen with the development.
The one addition I would say to the sewer, the bond is critical, again, for the sake of the public, that if they don't install the sewer, we can call on that bond and we install the sewer to ensure the infrastructure is there and they're still paying for it. I just wanted to add that little.
A pledge of security for the completion of improvements.
Yes, and a lot of times it's tied to a plat being recorded. So once the plat's recorded, they can go and sell those lots. And so we need to secure the fact that we can get utilities to that lot. Because someone's purchasing that lot with the expectation that they'll have utilities and street frontage.
Is it 5, what are we at on a retainage for our warranty period? Is it 5, 10%?
We usually do a 20% contingency, and then we'll release half the contingency, so we have a 10%.
10% of the contingency, not of the full amount?
10% of the entire bond.
Okay, yeah. So half of the contingency.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin. Now, one reason I do this is I got a couple of emails recently from citizens that said they can't understand sometimes what happens in city council meetings. So I thought from time to time, we'll explain the process of what we're talking about. And then I could say, December 5th, 2023, boom, go back and look at that highlight about bond reductions, right? So, and now with that said, we have him up here. We do have a bond reduction in front of us on our summary action calendar. So any questions for him on this, or do I have a motion on this one?
I'll make a motion to approve bond reduction number 8 and start of the warranty period for Summer Hill Lane subdivision in the amount of $63,500.
Second.
Motion is second. Further discussion? Councilman Ince, start voting for us.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Also, if we could have a motion to start the warranty for that, maybe that's part of it. I might have missed that, but.
I did say and start the
Oh,
warranty
perfect.
period. Is that enough?
Yes, that's
Okay.
perfect.
Okay.
I distracted him.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to minute approval. November 7th, work session, November 7th, city council, and November 7th, closed city council minutes. Do I have a motion on those?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as posted.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion passed unanimously. In your packet, you will find a financial report from Nate for October 2023. This is not the end of a quarter. Had to count 3 months out from June. This is 4 months out from June, so it's in there for you. If you do have any specific questions, he is here to ask, but this is not a quarterly report that he goes over. So that's there for your information, unless you have any questions for him. And seeing no questions, I would thank Nate for putting that together for us.
I would say the big one is just the transfer from the general fund to our capital project fund, correct, Nate? That's our Fund 47?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
He's coming up, so let's hear his response to that.
Yeah, so as part of our, if you recall, to our final budget amendment of fiscal year '23, we decided to set our general fund balance level at 30% of revenues, which gave us about $3.7 million to transfer over to the capital projects fund. So that's why you see that cash shift from between those two funds.
And state statute is 35?
Yeah.
Okay.
Above 5%, I believe, and below the max is 35.
Thanks, Dave.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on. Council report, Councilmember McEwen's not with us tonight, sick, so is there any pressing matters that anybody needs to report to us on from their committee assignments?
I probably ought to just give an update on the rec center. I think the last update I provided was that the truth and taxation hearing happened. Like I said, there was about 200 people at the beginning. Fox News was there. I think at the end, there was about 75. We met subsequent to that, still didn't come to a decision on an amount. And we have our meeting next Monday, where I think we're gonna have to decide on an amount. So we'll see how it plays out. We had three board members that switched and changed their votes to no votes on the tax increase. Mayor Horrocks, Mayor Romney, and board member Myers, as I recall it. And so my position stays consistent. It's a combination of operations reductions. We're really glad to have Haley here. Her position never got backfilled at the rec center, so there's been some operational reduction vis-a-vis not attrition. They had one more employee that recently just changed career. They're not even in rec anymore. So there's been some native reduction in costs, which is helpful in terms of the budget. But we're also looking at increasing competitive team fees, as I've talked about before. So still work to do. There's a discussion as it relates to the makeup of the board. I think state statute says for special service districts, a 5 to 7 member board, and we're an 8-member board. So I think by statute, we're going to be forced to change that board makeup. You may or may not receive emails or phone calls. There's a lot of goings on in the competitive skate community, allegations, counter allegations of harassment, racism, discrimination. So there
Ice
is,
skating.
yeah, competitive ice skating. So there's no shortage of things happening operationally and logistically at the rec center right now.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. I know it's
unfortunate.
not an easy one. It is.
Kate Bradshaw and I were chuckling, but not chuckling, saying we were so looking forward. We're rec people. We love the rec center, and you know, this is going to be such a great position to be in, and it's become a far greater challenge than we ever assumed it would be. So I was joking with the mayor last night at the Christmas party that one of our incoming council members might love that position. He said, "No, I think I'll keep you on it," which didn't come as a surprise.
I'll vote on that one with you, Mayor.
Oh, gee. I know this doesn't go as a council report, but if this is a council member Ince's last council meeting, it's been a pleasure to serve with you. And my favorite takeaway from Bill is he'll have his hands like he has them now, and he'll say, "I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyway." Which I think Mike Carlson almost does too, so he probably appreciates that just as much as anybody. But I appreciate your candor and just your great institutional knowledge, having served a couple of years.
Thank you. It's been
He's done a lot to serve this city, and when he first came on, we had some real financial issues, and he gave hundreds of hours to this city to get us back to where we are.
Thank you. I just appreciate 8 years is a long time to serve, and so thank you for your dedication and willingness to do that.
You were willing to do 4 more too.
Yeah, if circumstances hadn't
Correct.
changed, I probably would have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have tried.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a privilege. You know what? It's been a privilege.
It's your moment right now, because you were in my report as well, too, so what else, whatever you want to say.
I have been asked if I, how is it that I'm asked? If it's fun being on city council, and I've said, no, it's not really fun. But it is very educational and immensely satisfying. And the mayor, half jokingly last night, talked about enjoying the people that you work with. And I don't know the majority of the city employees, but I do know the people that are at this meeting, and I enjoy the people that are in this meeting, and I will very much miss my association. And I wish you all the best. It's been a privilege.
Likewise, for sure. I've learned a lot from you. It was great to have you when I came on board.
Well, you and I have a special relationship because of the financial background.
Yeah.
You're probably the only two that could really understand the audit reports.
One of the toughest things working with Councilmember Ents is how big his heart is, and he wants to help everybody. And then we'd have our late night conversation and be like, no, we can't do that. As a city, we can't do that. But he's always wanting to help, and so we try and find a way, right, Councilmember Ents, to find a way to help, and I always appreciated that. So everything else been shared, I agree with, but the big heart and wanting to help everybody, that's incredible. I appreciate it.
For sure. Yeah.
I like getting us.
You deserve it, you deserve it. You've given a lot to this city, and
City's giving
our
me a lot.
CERT program is much better because of you.
If we tag off of that, and also thank, even though he's not here, Councilmember McEwen, you know, he was a great administrative help to me, and I will miss him as well, because he understands both sides as a state employee and also as the elected official, so I will miss working with George McEwen as well.
George is a brilliant man.
Amazing.
We'll miss him.
So, we're losing two great individuals.
Sure.
So you need computer and financial stuff,
Yeah.
Robin.
I'll be back at my accounting class right away.
Don't click on those phishing emails.
Thank you.
They click themselves now.
I have never clicked one. I just get them by the hundreds. So now I don't click on the ones I probably should. If you send me one and I don't click, you'll know I'm afraid, so I just don't click.
Okay, it seems like we should end there, but I'll report on a few things, and I think Brent might have some report too. First off, I stayed quite involved in following the 2nd Congressional District race with both candidates, trying to get established a relationship and watching that race. As we know, Celeste Malloy was successful in that. She is our congressperson. She does come from Congressman Stewart's office as one of his attorneys. She's very well aware of our needs. I think that I hit her up about things, and Mike and his group did another, and so we've had that relationship. Unfortunately for her, she has to start campaigning again in about 3 or 4 months because she has to run again next year. Doesn't even get 2 years out of it. So, so I want to report on that. In COG, I was on a committee of 5 mayors who didn't submit a project for this third quarter sales tax. This is a sales tax that the legislature initiated a few years ago that for new road projects that are substantial upgrades to existing road projects. You can submit, and COG reviews these applications, because I was one of the mayors on it, like I said, because we did not, but we did allocate out in COG about 17 million. It was kind of unique this year as much as the southern end of the county doesn't submit as many things, and Bountiful submitted something, and you know, it was in some ways kind of hard for the rest of the group to understand that we were submitting projects from down here as well too. And this doesn't want to be us against them, but in my analysis of the projects that were presented, my first thing was looking at safety. You know, there's as we toured around to these projects, we went in person, and when I went out and saw the growth that was happening out in our northwestern cities, and saw a project where they were putting in a brand new junior high school, and they did need a road upgrades significantly in an area like that for the safety of those children. I mean, something like that was, the 10 projects in front of me was one of my highest priorities, because that's what I looked at as so critical at first in improving these projects. So that happened, just for your information, in COG. Another thing that happened in COG is that after I did the water tour back in June, I got really scratching my head this was just after all that water was coming down from our heavy winter last year, of all this growth and all this talk about conservation, but no talk about new sources of water. So I started inquiring, going around water managers around the state, as well as private industry people that build, and came up with a resolution that I worked on with someone in Senator Adams' office to present to the COG members to sign, that yes, we want to do our best to continue to conserve, but we also need to look at new water sources as well too. So as the 20 members of COG, we're all going to sign that and have that read as a resolution on, to our Senate, our state Senate, and our state House as the sessions start this year. In addition to that, at our last meeting, we had Senator Adams come. I invited him personally because I was chair of COG this year, because I had talked with all our mayors, and I wanted him to hear from us how critical it is that we want to be able to continue to have the ability to, at our level, make decisions regarding what our cities are going to be, but in working with the state on that as well too. But I wanted him to hear how passionate all the mayors felt about it, and he was very good at coming and listening. Fire board, Haley, I want to throw something out to you. In our fire board meeting, we talked about particularly a fire that had happened on a home in Bountiful. And it was a fire that basically it looked like from potentially a clogged chimney, and basically the roof lit on fire, and you know, the house was pretty much destroyed. If we could possibly get out on our websites of people, if they do have wood burning stoves, to make sure they first burn with those creosote logs in them first, or have their chimneys cleaned out. Be careful with how many lights they're putting on a circuit, on their Christmas lighting. I mean, you know, we were fortunate this year to not have the fires up on the hill, but these are things that happen this time of year because of the cold weather coming in, furnaces not working, like I said, fires, the chimneys being clogged, too much circuit overload, that type of thing, and people just need to know and be aware that they shouldn't be doing those things, and they need to look at that carefully. We had some fun things happen in the last few weeks. Obviously, we had a nice Christmas party last night with staff and elected officials and planning commissioners and others. We had a tree lighting a week ago. You've all seen the park as you came in tonight. That was fun with Santa Claus coming, and we thank the Parks and Rec Board for doing that. The last thing I would throw out to you is this is the time of year, every 2 years, that I take this last 2-3 weeks of December, and especially the week between Christmas and New Year's, to look at our committee assignments and the 2 or 3 things that you're all assigned to. We're going to have a couple members going off, as we just talked about, and so we're going to have some spots available. If there's any concerns that you have in your position, other than Spencer Summerhays being the rector, or I want to hear from you.
And if you say anything, you get the correct.
Well, I welcome to hear from you too, but please contact me if there's anything I need to be aware of as I go through my organizing the chart. It's kind of like doing my March Madness bracket, making sure I seed teams correctly and match you up correctly with what your skill set may be. So I welcome that as well too. Any questions for me?
I think we already talked about it earlier, but the 4th of July dates.
Yes, we will.
To help you have a consensus on those dates so we have certainty for our committee and our volunteers.
I gotta, yes, and that's part of my fault as well too. I mean, that would be helpful in pinning down to know who we might be getting the work on the committee on that. You know, I think it's best, because last year was a little problem, that we know the dates that it's gonna be before I'm out there talking to people about, hey, well, we need help on the 4th of July committee. I need to know the dates, so.
And I will share, in addition to the 4th of July, just again, I always loved Don Christensen's show, but creating that, he's not available on the 4th. I did ask Bryce, I think Haley's helping, just to get some rough numbers, if we were to contract it out on the 4th of July, potentially what that cost difference would be when Don helps us, and to try and see, maybe the 4th of July is still better, and if we can find a price. So I think Haley's helping just get some numbers to help us with those dates.
Okay.
So we're working on
Good,
that now.
that'd be good
That's
to
a
have.
helpful piece of information.
Yeah, it would be.
Big help.
All right, thank you. Brett, what's
have-
your manager report?
Several items. Piggybacking off the flock, I'm doing a lot of piggybacking today, off the flock cameras. I still want to say flock and sequel cameras every time, but off the flock cameras, one of the concerns, we're seeing a lot of vandalism in our parks. I just had a resident share yesterday about a retaining wall and in our parks. We're seeing a lot of vandalism. You saw the pictures of Freedom Hills Park. Last year we had ATVs riding through our parks, ripping up our grass. Our bathrooms were being destroyed. What's really frustrating, when we talk about these cameras that in our streets, we're needing more cameras in some of these public areas. And I don't want to become that city where we're needing cameras, but it's becoming quite costly. But in the budget, we have $82,000 set aside to repair or replace our existing cameras, which have become useless. We can't identify anyone, no details. So anything does happen, it's really difficult to make out those details. I mean, we get enough, and the flock cameras are great in capturing things. But so we're going to bring it to you on a work session. We have a bid, so we're going to go into a closed session and share with you.
When you say bring it, are you talking about
a proposal?
These cameras or cameras
A proposal.
plus
I'm sorry, we'll
parks
bring a
and-
proposal to you with camera locations and a bid. So I just
Right.
want to make you aware that we're working on that currently.
Just a suggestion on that, Brand, is that maybe there's a base package for what we have in place to replace what we have, and then there's alternate one, alternate two.
That's all built in.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
So we're going to meet with the police department. We haven't met with them yet to get their input and see how valuable those locations will be for them as well, because they're the ones that will be very helpful, use it more than anyone else. So the mayor and I met with UTA, just again, an update on potential BRT and some of their working on, that they're working on. And so they've got some more information, some more data they'd like to come present to city council next year. I don't know if you have anything else, Mayor, to add than that, but they just want to have another opportunity to present some more information and data that they've.
Thank you, because I did have that here and it got buried under, so.
Well, most times, Mayor, when you go before me, you address many of it. I'm just like, the Mayor's got it, so.
That came up as part of Wasatch Choice, that little breakout, and that southern portion that's already essentially funded and will start construction fairly soon, I think.
Yeah, I don't know exactly when, but yeah. Bryce and Bethany have been working with them on HR onboarding. That's one of those areas that when we bring on new employees, making sure we're checking all the boxes, make sure the drug test is done, and making sure they have all the documentation and the trainings before they get going. So Bryce and Bethany are doing a phenomenal job helping us get a better, more sophisticated system, because there's liabilities involved if you don't handle that paperwork right. And not that we've had any serious issues, but having it a little bit more sophisticated brings a lot of comfort. So Bryce and Bethany are doing great on that. We're doing 400 West and Parish. We meet regularly on that project. We're still moving forward, still trying to acquire right-of-way so we can move forward on that project. It looks like digital construction now as of next year. We'll go out to bid in October because we're still trying to acquire all the right-of-way. We just got the last bit of documents for the utilities agreements. So just a long drawn-out process.
Did IHOP decide to play ball? Not IHOP, but the landowner. They're still.
That's the one property we're still working with. Let's see. Bryce and I met with the trust to go over our workers' comp. I just want to let you know our EMOD, which just means, an average compared to our cities, our size and all that. A 1 is your EMOD. Anything below that, you're doing great. Above that, you pay a premium. We're below a 1, so our employees are doing a great job staying safe. We don't have a lot of claims and a lot of expenses. So I just want to let you know that's great. I love to hear that we have that culture here. We had community development director interviews yesterday. I think that went really well. We have one candidate we really like, and we'll be working through that process, making that offer and see where we go from there. And the last thing, unless you have any questions. Haley, do you want to know their favorite Christmas movie for your little bracket? Yeah. Favorite Christmas movie, on the spot.
Home Alone.
Spirited.
That's mine.
Christmas Vacation.
If Wonderful Life doesn't win, it was rigged. Wonderful Life.
How can you vote against Chevy Chase?
I like it. It's a Wonderful Life.
Christmas Story, close second. Oh.
Yeah, that would be my second
Great
too.
lines in that one, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Little Ralphie.
You'll shoot your eye out.
That's right.
There's no line better than, are you serious, Clark?
I should like that.
I know you should.
My name in it. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Did you get them all from each one of this? Did Councilman Ince express one?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks. Anything else from anybody?
Should we ask, I'm getting questions about the cemetery again.
If you want an update on that, I'll let you.
No, my response to this point is, hey, look, we've been working for almost 2 years now, trying to identify locations, talking to a number of landowners.
So I'm happy to share what we're doing internally. In the meantime, as we try to identify the property, again, so I think I've shared this with a couple of you, but the pickleball courts was a sticker shock, I think, to all of us on what it would cost to build pickleball courts. So my concern became, we're doing all this work to identify the land, that are we going to have that same sticker shock when we say, now how do we build it? And I want to make sure we fully understand what that cost would be once we identify a piece of land. Now, all land is going to be different in their needs, whether it's fill or up on a hillside or demolishing homes to put it in. So we've taken a hypothetical piece of land and a 5-acre piece of land, and Kevin, Mike, Corey, and Nate and I have been meeting and we kind of have this concept that we've been working through of what that might be. Where does the water need to come from, sewer, drainage, how much fill, all of that, and how much road frontage improvements need to happen. So we're getting a sense of those numbers, and we'll be presenting that once we have a really good idea of what that hard cost would be just to develop the piece of land. And then, of course, in the variables, how much does that land cost, or if it's donated, or whatever that case might be. So I just want to say, this is how much it will cost with this scenario. Now, could go up or down based on the needs, but we're working on that internally as staff, just so we can have a full picture and say, here's about how much we anticipate it's going to cost as we continue to pursue and find a piece of land, and make sure you're fully informed before we make a real offer on another offer on a piece of land. So, does that help?
Yes. I mean, my response has been kind of,
We're working on it.
we're trying.
Yeah, we really are. We've been having some great discussions of what that could look like, the cemetery with potentially an active lifestyle trail around the cemetery, because we're seeing that happening. So we've got some great ideas of what it could look like, that it's more than just a cemetery, but it's actually a peaceful place to have people go. Because you have people walking their dogs and doing their runs through our cemeteries now, why not?
I was
just-
going to say, our cemetery is a big walking
Yeah,
place for
so-
people now.
So why not kind of encourage those peaceful type active lifestyle communities? So we're having a lot of fun just kind of exploring.
True passive park.
But then we're also looking at how many plots you could fit with the rows where they are, and then Nate's helping with the profitability analysis of how much revenue will be
The
generated.
unprofitability analysis.
Yeah, very true, very true. So anyway, we're going through that exercise now as staff, and I think that's going really well.
Okay, thanks.
Greatest uses, huh? Okay. Well, motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Second.
All right, city council adjourned, thank you.